So we do free consultations with clients. And I always tell clients the best thing you can do before getting into any business or property is to contact a lawyer before it's too late. With these dealings, it's a lot of negotiations, and so you really don't want to show your hand, so to speak.
Hi, everyone. Here's another episode of Joe Knows with myself, Joseph Dallow from Dallow Estate Planning. And I have a special guest with me today, Daryl Nasfu.
Hi, everyone.
Daryl is an attorney, and I will go ahead and start asking him some questions so we can get to know you a little bit better. So what areas of law do you specialize in?
So I primarily practice in the areas of business transactions, property transactions, and landlord-tenant matters. We also handle licensing in Michigan, which includes Michigan Liquor Commission control and marijuana licensing, and we handle also mortgage licenses, which has become very prominent in Michigan over the last few years.
Yeah, a lot of people have gotten into the mortgage business recently. I'm sure you've helped a lot of people get their licenses for that.
Yeah, it's a really booming business, and we really just assist partners as well in terms of business transactions. Just want to elaborate on that. We assist many people who have partners. So if you're a multi-member entity, we assist partners protect their interest in the company, as well as the inner dealings of the company. So who has voting interests and things along that nature, which is very important down the line because, sometimes you're in the business realm and things are smooth, and sometimes when business crashes, so does the partnership. So you really have to protect yourself and know what you're doing and know what you're getting into.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because, I always try to relate stuff back to estate planning, and we were talking about this earlier. When you have multiple people that own a business, what do you see as an issue that you try to prevent from happening with estate planning when somebody passes away?
So one of the biggest things I try to do is really control the transfer of shares within the membership company. So one of the things we like to do is protect somebody upon not only death, but Joe will tell you also, if you become permanently disabled or, you're deemed by a court to be incompetent to deal with these businesses or sign on behalf of yourself. And so depending on the business structure, you try to make the operating agreement or bylaws able to protect your client so that if they do pass away or become permanently disabled, that their shares can pass on to their family member, or that their shares get bought out by another member within the company, depending on who has kind of the power within the company or who has that bargaining power. And so what you try to do is really outline that within the operating agreement to give them that power. And, luckily, if everyone is amicable with each other, they will allow that membership interest to pass to their heirs. And obviously, that's when you call Joe, and he will reflect the same in his estate planning documents and further assist them to effectuate that.
Right. Yeah. So that's why with business owners, with estate planning, it's always imperative that you have a good operating agreement in place when you have partners. That way, everything can be taken care of very smoothly, and everything is written down, because a lot of people don't have they don't have an operating agreement in place, or they might have an operating agreement in place, but it's not worded accurately as to what needs to happen in those situations.
And so a lot of people too, what they'll do is they just don't do one at all. They just won't draft one. And when you don't have one drafted, what you do is you fall on, Michigan has essentially a default operating agreement for people who don't have one in place. And it's very even keel. No one really has one power over the other. And so that's when it gets really touchy with these estate planning areas when it comes to transferring interest. You can even be a single member and not have an operating agreement, and it becomes you can still protect that asset, but it becomes very expensive to do so when you get into Joe's realm, and time consuming as well, versus having that operating agreement figured out, and then it becomes kind of like a seamless transition. Hopefully that time doesn't come for many of you, but it's always upon us. And so that's what we help assist clients with.
Right. And Okay, so you mentioned business interests and then also landlord-tenant stuff. What type of landlord-tenant issues do you typically deal with?
So the landlord tenant kind of meshes in with the property transactions, and so we help assist clients with purchasing or selling property, and we also handle people who have complicated property located where there's easements and things like that, or something that would prevent you from operating on that land. And kind of to go further to your point, when we do represent these landlords, their obviously goal is to have a tenant in there. And so we help represent landlords primarily. We do assist tenants, but our primary focus is with landlords. And we assist them with, landlord rights, whether it be something going down in the building, and there's a dispute amongst the landlord and tenant as to who's responsible for that and the payment of that, as well as evictions, which obviously, since the COVID-19 virus, things have become more contentious. And obviously, the state does what they can do to try to help people out with payments. But it's a bit of a tug and war because, the landlords don't get that same benefit from their lender. And so we assist landlords in evicting tenants who are either not paying or disturbing other tenants or not taking care of the property properly, which affects the property values.
And then how can people get hold of you?
So you can reach me through social media. We have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then obviously we always love meeting clients in person, and obviously by phone. We can be reached at 248-897-0700. And my email is my first and last name, which is Daryl Nasfu at gmail.com. And we're located in Farmington Hills, Michigan, but we service all of Metro Detroit.
Let's say somebody wanted to start a business or go through that route. What should they prepare for you, or how does your consultation work, or what do you need to prepare for that?
So we do free consultations with clients. And I always tell clients the best thing you can do before getting into any business or property is to contact a lawyer before it's too late. With these dealings, it's a lot of negotiations. And so you really don't want to show your hand, so to speak, with the other side. And so it's best to always speak with an attorney prior to making any statements to the other side. Obviously, you want to show your interest with them, but I would always, at least at a minimum, make a consultation with an attorney to see what the best route is to go to protect yourself. I always tell people, my most prominent business clients, when you look at them, you always say these people are, mostly successful due to their ambition and determination, but also due to a strong legal team and accounting team and, estate planning and having all the background in place, kind of like the administrative work. You really want to have that in place. And the richest people in the world, you call like the Donald Trumps of the world, they have a good legal team behind them to support them and tell them how to stay out and minimize their liabilities. And that's really what you're trying to do, is minimize liability and exposure to lawsuits, so that when you're doing these business dealings, you have shelter through LLCs or corporations to minimize your risk. And so the best thing to do is come right away to an attorney. And, it's funny you mentioned new business owners, because as of late, I've been getting, ever since COVID, surprisingly, I've been getting really interesting clients coming up with really interesting and new innovative ideas. And I love that's one of my favorite part of my job, is sitting down with clients who have new ideas that have not been seen before, and they're really bringing their own flavor to the market. And it's really interesting to see their energy and kind of feed off that.
Yeah, I think that happens when you're backed against a corner. Like, you need to make money, and so people start getting all these creative ideas, because when you need to make the money, that's when you are, you have to be productive. So I can totally see that happening.
It is. It's been very interesting the last few years. I noticed for like my first 3 years, it was kind of like, the normal mom and pop shops. And ever since COVID, I've been seeing a kind of a flip into these new markets that are coming out, especially because things kind of transitioned after COVID more to like internet based, even more than it was before. Right. I feel like.
Is there anything else that you would like to add about your practice that people should know? Why should they go talk to you versus somebody else, let's say, for example?
So we really tailor all our agreements to every transaction. We really don't like to just kind of plug and chug into these documents as some legal professionals do. You really want to tailor the agreement to that specific transaction, because there is, they tell you in law school, you'll never get the same transaction twice. There's always something different in there. And the best way to find that out is to really have a good consultation with your client and understand what they need and what the transaction entails. And that really is all the details of it and all the risks and liabilities, and really just taking the time to sit down and understand what's going on. And having open discussions with everyone involved, so everyone knows where they stand within the agreement, and not leaving things out to question. You really want to cover all facets of the transaction. And then that's kind of the best way I could put that. In terms of licensing, you really want to get your paperwork down for licensing, because there's that additional check mark with the state usually. And so it's not like kind of like with estate planning where you can kind of stay out of the courts. You're always, no matter what, when a transfer happens, kind of like if somebody passes away, or you're selling your shares, you're always going back to the state. You always have to go back to them to get approval from them for whatever transfer that you're doing. Got approval on the individual so that they're vetted through the state and they're approved to hold that license.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely good that you mentioned, what you can do for your clients, which I appreciate, because I know that at least with estate planning, and I know there's other documents that you can get from online, people think that a trust is a trust or a will is a will. And they go online and they get these documents, and I'm like, you miss one word in that document and it changes everything. Or, you people put stuff in their trust that they create on their own, and they put something different in their will. Now you have conflicting information and they don't realize what they're doing. And I appreciate that you, through your consultations, get the information that the client would need so that they can have a tailored document for exactly what they need.
And I think the biggest thing to go back to you, Joe, is once they do that in your side of the industry, it's too late to change it once you find out. And I think that's the biggest thing on your end. On our end, something pops up. If everyone's amicable, they could hopefully fix it. But still not a route you want to go down. In your side of the ball, people really need to stay on top of that ahead of the game, or else, the heirs are dealing with trying to figure out
Right.
how to fix that. I'm sure you had some good war stories.
Yeah. Oh man, you don't understand what people are capable of until they have a reason to be capable of that thing. Let me just tell you, I mean, especially when money is involved, estate planning. What I like to do is, before the emotions get all riled up, take care of things at that time. Because when people are sick, when a loved one is dying or has passed away, you're not in the right emotional state to take care of things. And at that time, there's monetary value that's at stake also.
Yeah.
And so now you have a lot of money that's at stake, or a house that you grew up in and that's available, and you have siblings, and people are all emotional. That's not the right time to take care of things. And so for me, I like to prevent that issue from happening and prevent people from fighting over stuff that shouldn't happen.
I think you and I discussed this a little bit earlier, which was, some people get kind of like, hey, I don't want to spend whatever the dollar amount may be on an attorney now, like today, to protect my asset, whatever it may be, whether it's a business or a property or, a family's estate. And I always tell them, listen, to spend, 0.5% on your asset in relation to the cost of what it is or their estate, versus later when it's kind of a crashing and burning scenario and you're spending far more money to kind of stop the bleeding at that point. So I always tell people, look at the asset, it's $100,000 asset, for example. You should look at it like, hey, if I spend $1,000, for example, just throwing out a number, to protect that asset, it's worth it to protect that asset. And if you don't protect it, you're almost certain, at one time to, pay far more than that just to get that asset under control, so to speak.
Right. And I you know what I tell people, I say it's a lot less expensive to pay for my services when you want to use my services than when you need to use my services.
Yeah, when you have to use
because that's what it is. That's what it is. I'm giving you an option to do it the right way for a lower amount now.
Yeah.
And take care of it. And it's easier for everybody. It's easier for the client. I make it very easy to go through the process. And then I make it's easier for me to go through the process rather than going through probate court and dealing with that hassle. And then people start fighting and all this stuff. And it's just, that's what it is. Same thing with anything, right? Like with a car, you can maintain it and do oil changes, or you can wait for the engine to break and then you pay for the engine. That's what it is.
It is. And, I tell my business clients this all the time, which is, make sure your paperwork is in order before you do anything. And a lot of them, the world doesn't work the way it used to. A lot of them still, they want to go and, shake someone's hand and, hey, they told me X, Y, and Z. But when you go into a courtroom and things kind of collapse, all those conversations, for all intents and purposes, they never happened. And so you really need to get all your ducks in a row on paper and make sure you're covering everything. And I think that's I think the most important place where you and I come in is, effectuating people's intent on the paper.
Right.
And documenting it.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, it's especially with the business transactions, with buying a property, you need those documents to be ironclad, because you don't know what's going to happen. And especially like as a person that hasn't done any of those transactions before, if it's your first time, or even if you've done it multiple times, you still might not be aware of what the attorney knows is a possible outcome. Like I tell people with my industry, with mortgages and real estate, people will buy a house and they will go to the mortgage broker and say, what happens if I die? I need to add my child onto the deed. And the mortgage broker doesn't really know the options, but they know an option is, oh yeah, we can add the child onto the deed. It might not be the right way to take care of that situation, but it's the only option that they know of. And it's an option that might work, but it might not be the right option to use. They just don't know.
I think people need to kind of go to who handles these areas the best. For example, I handled the transaction the other day. I'll just give you like a brief, war story. And a client was using a realtor, and this is no bash on realtors, but they were buying commercial property for a client, and the realtor, luckily, very wisely, he said, hey, I think you need to go talk to an attorney on this. There was a volume of documents that were produced from the title work, and sure enough, tucked away and the documents was a restrictive covenant, which basically tells people what you can't do on the property. And it actually restricted the client's primary use that he was buying the property for. And so we had to go through working with the people that had the power to remove that covenant so that he can actually operate that business on that property. Otherwise, he would have spent, a large sum of money to buy a property for something he wouldn't even be able to use it for. And so these are the things that you really need to pay attention to, is doing your due diligence when you buy a property, and making sure if it's, that I always suggest people, you buy the property in the name of a company if it's an investment. And then, the next layer under that is securing the operating agreement and making sure you can transfer to your heir. And then, going to speak to an estate planning attorney to thereafter, make sure that asset's protected for the most important reason why we all work, which is to, pass something on to our children or family or a loved one, and making sure that they're taken care of. And that's why we all go to work really, pretty much the next day. And so you want to make sure that asset's protected. And so those are the layers that you would go through. And then Joe would be your end all be all to protect that.
Yes. Okay. So we got a good idea of all the stuff that you do as a lawyer. What type of stuff do you like to do for fun to get away from this kind of stuff?
Oh, okay. So when I'm not working, I have 2 boys that keep me extremely busy. And I'm a big gym guy, so I love going to the gym. And gathering with my friends a lot, but primarily spending time with my family. I'm a big family guy. I spend most of my day with my oldest son, who's like kind of glued to me. Before that, I was big into sports. So I used to play basketball about 5 days a week.
Oh wow.
So big basketball fanatic, and just sports in general. I watch sports a lot. And so between sports and my son and the gym, that kind of consumes most of my time. And other than that, I'm stuck in the office.
Yeah, I used to be able to play sports. Now I play basketball once a week. That's about it.
You know, someone told me once you hit 30, your body kind of goes down. And I used to laugh at them because I used to, play so much. And then once I hit 30, it kind of happened all of a sudden like that week. And I was like, oh man, this is like bad karma because I used to talk so much trash.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not going to happen to me. And then I literally the week I turned 30, it just everything started falling. So I said, man, I hung up the boots, and now I go to the gym. And my new hobby I'm trying to get into is golf, but not having too much luck on it.
It's difficult.
Yeah,
golf looks easy. It's not. It's not easy.
I thought it was going to be easy, and then I went and tried it, and definitely not as easy as it looks.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
They're almost exactly 2 years apart. So I had 2 years old, and the other one's 4 months.
Okay.
For everyone watching this podcast, I promise I won't have any more children. So every time I have a kid, there's like this world event that happens. So my first one was born March 6th, and we're literally sitting in the hospital. It's like first case of COVID, and I came to the hospital the next day, and there was like, you were like, had to get screened. And then we had our second boy March 4th, 2022. And we're in the hospital, and it's like baby formula shortage, which is like never happened. So I'm like, all right, if we have another one, there's gonna be like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
So
but
Daryl's saving all of us.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm saving all of you by having no more having no more kids.
Thank you.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Like my kids are almost 9, 7, and turning 3.
Oh, so you're out of the baby phase.
Almost.
Yeah.
My son is
no more diapers for you.
Almost. Yeah. We're almost there.
Yeah.
And my son is attached to me. It's so funny. Like he calls me his best friend. I'm like, you're my best friend.
Yeah.
That's it. Nobody else can say anything. So it's awesome. And
Joe, I have a question for you.
Oh yeah.
Since you're on the estate planning side.
Yes.
So I know you can like pay your children like a salary when they're younger and get like a tax write-off.
Yep.
So I just want to know, are you doing like free child labor, or like they're getting paid for all these like advertisements on the Dallo estate planning? I see them in there. Are they getting paid an acting fee?
I am paying them, yes. But it goes. I have other layers that fall into that, but
okay.
And I'll explain to you later because I think it's very creative.
Good.
But yes, I am taking advantage of tax laws.
Yeah.
the correct way. Okay, everything is legal.
They do a good acting job.
Thank you.
I saw some clips of them earlier, and they do a really good job. They do a good job.
Yeah, they help me out a lot with they help me with my business, so I got to take care of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have some questions here that we can maybe go through. Let's see. What is something that people are obsessed with, but you just don't get the point of it?
Obsessed with, but don't get the point of it. Starbucks coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I drive by. There's one right next to my office, so I see it every day, and the line flows into the road. And so every time I'm driving by, I said, man, who's paying $7 for a cup of coffee, and they're that busy going into the road?
Yeah.
And my second thing that drives me nuts is TikTok.
Okay, I was gonna say TikTok too.
Yeah.
But
TikTok and this new age thing that my son does, which is they watch people do something. So like they're watching a kid play with a toy, or like watching a kid play a video game, and I'm like, I go to something like, you know that you can play the video game like yourself.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
And so those are I would say those are the two most things.
I would agree. Yeah, especially. Do you drink coffee?
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you go for your coffee?
Homemade.
A homemade? Okay.
Homemade, and we have a little Keurig machine in the office.
Okay.
And so I slowly became a coffee junkie once I had kids. Before I had kids, I don't think I ever had coffee.
Oh, wow.
Like I used to wake up pretty energetic.
Yeah.
And then starting 2020, I'm like 2 cups a day now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't drink coffee. I still don't drink coffee.
Oh, you got that natural energy, Joe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
That's what we need. We all need to tap into that.
I'm always tired.
Yeah.
Would you rather be the most popular kid in school or the smartest kid in school?
I would say the smartest kid in school, because the most popular kid in school may not be the most successful one in school, in life.
Yeah.
And school is a short period. Once you get out of school, you only keep up with a few people from school. Your close friends, and everyone else kind of moves out of the state or gets married, or you don't really keep up with them too much.
Yeah, I agree. I would choose the same. Okay, would you rather go 30 days without your phone or your entire life without dessert?
Oh, that one's easy. Entire life without dessert. I'm not a dessert guy.
Oh man.
My family thinks I'm crazy because they have like cakes and all this stuff, and they'll bring me a birthday cake, and I'm like, guys, I don't eat cake. Like, why are you bringing me cake?
I would go 30 days without my phone.
Yeah, 30 days. Like,
oh yes.
So it's a good thing that I brought you dessert then.
Yes,
for
yes,
after.
exactly. Yes, perfect. Yeah.
I got it your sweet side without knowing.
Yeah.
There we go. Then I'll take it.
Yeah.
A phone I can't go without.
Yeah, I can.
I don't
do
think
it.
you can go without your phone either.
I can.
Joe.
Yes, I can.
You can.
I will do
easily?
it. I would totally do it. I would just have other people take care of the stuff for me.
I was about to say, how are you gonna take care of people's estate planning?
I'll backlog everything. I'm gonna ask Daryl to step in for me for 30 days.
I got this. I'll take care of you, Joe. I got your clients.
Awesome.
30 days though. They're all gonna need to wait a little bit to get things produced though.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome. The phone is difficult to get rid of.
It is.
Especially with our business, especially with we were talking about it with our personalities. Like, I need to answer. Sometimes I get in trouble with the wife. Like, why are you answering this right now? But you know what? Like, I try to take care of people. It's important to them, so it's important to me also to be available to them. And even if I can't help them at that time, it's just to answer the phone and give them that reassurance that, hey, I heard you, and I have a plan to get back with you with the answer or to work on whatever it is that you need.
I agree, and I always tell my wife this too, and I say, listen, whoever's calling me at whatever time it may be, in our line of industry, we're dealing with like really, especially for you, like life-changing moments,
Right.
Assets that have been built over decades, a home that's been paid off for 30 years and that you lived in as a memory to it, or, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a bank account. Or like on my end, you're buying a really expensive property. And so time is really of the essence in those moments. And people want to know they're in good hands, and somebody who's really communicating with them and taking the time to talk with them. And so when you give them that little relief, I think like you said, it makes them feel better knowing that you're on top of their case.
Right. Yeah. Because I was talking about this with my wife. It's like the communication thing is, if I call and you don't answer, or if I text you and maybe you looked at it but you don't give me a response, I don't know. I haven't been assured that you know what's going on, that message has been relayed. I've had it before where I've had a family member where there was miscommunication. We were sending, this was a while ago, okay? So we were sending texts to this person, and we were getting upset because we weren't getting a response, but we realized that the phone's capacity was full and no incoming texts were going into the phone at all. So outgoing texts were able to happen, but no incoming texts. And so there's a miscommunication there because you're not getting that response, letting the person know that something's happening or not. So now I'm aware of that because of that situation, that there might be something going on behind the scenes that is preventing the communication from getting to the other person.
You know where that is, Joe? That's because I just learned a moment ago you're an 80s baby. So, you grew up with that. You went from the dial phone to the Blueberry to the Nextel. So you saw it all.
Yes, I did, yes.
Your kids are going to look back kind of like we look back at our like grandparents, like, oh, our grandparents saw the car develop and everything like that. Our kids are going to be like, our dad saw the phone coming
that's
coming to the world.
That's so it's funny. So we have Google Assistant everywhere in my house.
Oh, nice.
And so when my kids
they're listening to you, Joe.
No, I know they do. They listen to me. They listen to me all the time. Dallo estate planning. Yeah. It's okay. All right. My kids, when they would be watching TV, I can control the TV by speaking from anywhere in the house, right? And so if we tell them, go clean your room or something, and they wouldn't listen to us, so I would say the command to turn the TV off. So eventually they started getting annoyed of that. They would understand that I would be able to turn it off. So they would start screaming while I'm giving the command so that the device won't hear me. We were on vacation one time. We were at a hotel and I asked them to do something. They didn't listen to me. So I knew that there wasn't a Google Assistant there. But I started saying it and they started screaming because they thought that every place has this device that can turn the TV off. It was awesome. It was like they had no clue that doesn't exist everywhere.
I'm happy you invited me on the show. Hopefully I'll catch more of your episodes on there.
Sounds good.
You have to see Joe's actors, 3 little young actors on his ads. They make the show good.
Yeah.
They make the show
Thank
good.
you.
And they still convey the message though, protect yourself.
Yeah. And then why don't you give us again how people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can contact me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, all using my name, Daryl Nasfu, or on Facebook, Law Office of Daryl Nasfu. You can always do my favorite, which is, since COVID, I don't get it as much, which is coming to the office in person, and we're located on Orchard Lake Road between 13 and 14 Mile Road. Or you can contact me on my phone, which is 248-897-0700.
Awesome. And thank you again for joining us. Again, this is Daryl Nasfu, attorney. And for all of your estate planning needs, you can contact me, Joe Dallow, from Dallow Estate Planning. My phone number is 248-914-8146. My email address is joe@dallowestateplanning.com. Or you can go online to my website, dallowestateplanning.com, and read my blogs to get more information on estate planning. And that concludes our episode of Joe Knows.